So today I'm going to give you guys one secret to avoid repetitive stress injuries, and then I'm going to give you a few examples along the way. How's it going, runners? My name is Justin Thompson. I'm your average running PT, and I help the average runner achieve their own personal elite status. If that's something you guys are into, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you know when the next video comes out. So repetitive stress injuries, it's the bane of all runners' existence, and it's something that if you're not careful, you will get at some point in your running journey. Now, we all get into the rut of doing the same thing over and over and over again, and this is the cause of repetitive stress running injuries. I mean, we're talking about repetitive stress of doing the exact same thing over and over and over every day. So how do you avoid a repetitive stress injury? Well, you stop repeating doing the exact same thing over and over again. So the one word that I want to give you guys that is the one secret to avoiding these repetitive stress injuries is variability. And I'm talking about different kinds of variability. I'm going to give you 3 examples of variability that you can introduce into your running routine that will help to reduce the amount of likelihood that you are going to get a repetitive stress injury. Now, I cannot claim that it will completely remove all of the risk that running involves, because running is an impact sport. You're hitting the ground every single second with about 2.5 to 3 times your body weight on one leg. Okay, so every single second, every single time you hit the ground, you are landing with 3 times your body weight on one leg. And there's stress there. And it's repetitive because you're going straight ahead, forward, using the same muscles in general, pretty much with every step. So how do we introduce variability into your running so that you don't end up with some sort of repetitive stress injury? Now, one of the best ways that you can help reduce your likelihood of some sort of repetitive stress injury, say an Achilles tendonitis, a runner's knee, IT band syndrome, anything like that, is to actually change the type of training that you're doing. So I'm talking about step away from running for a second and move over to a different kind of training. Now, this can include some sort of weight training or cycling or rowing or some other kind of a sport. Step aerobics for all I care. It could be anything that's different and using the muscles in a different way so that you're not putting the exact same stress on your body as you do when you're just running straight ahead. Now, for me, when I was growing up as a kid all the way through college, I was playing so many different sports over the course of the year that I was doing all different kinds of movements, and my muscles were becoming strong in a bunch of different ways. So I ran cross country during the fall whenever I was in high school, and then I would play basketball in the winter, and then I would play soccer in the spring, and then I was pretty much doing whatever in the world I wanted to do in the summer as far as sports and activities and things like that. So because of all of those different stimulus that I would experience over the course of the year, I felt like I was a very, very resilient runner when it did come time for doing cross country in the fall. And by the way, when I ran cross country, I would always run on all sorts of different surfaces, and that's a little foreshadowing to another thing here in just a minute. But one of the best ways that you can do that you can help prevent repetitive stress injuries is to actually change up the way that you are training. Now, the second way that you can introduce some variability into your running is to change up your footwear. Now, I've got a rotation of 3 or 4 different shoes that I use. I've got one that's a 0 drop, I've got one that's 5 millimeters, and I've got one that's 8 millimeters. And then I've got one that's really soft and plush. I've got one that's much more firm, one that's got a stack height that's significantly greater than the next. So there's a lot of different variability to the footwear that I am putting on my shoes. Now, what that allows is for whenever I go out and run, each shoe is going to stress my foot and lower leg a little bit differently than the other one. And when you have these different stresses on the foot, then you're not going to have nearly as much of the same repetitive thing going on in your foot and lower leg with every single step. Especially if you're talking about stack height, if you've got more stack height, you've got to work through that stack height a little bit differently with your muscles. If you've got a different heel to toe drop, that's going to force you a little more onto your toes or a little bit more back. So it's going to stress the calf in a different way. So you got to think about, the different shoes that you're putting on your feet and how are they affecting the muscles, tendons, ligaments, and joints that are all in your foot and lower leg, and is it putting the exact same stress on you with every single step? Now I've made a video before about having a running shoe rotation. I'll try and link that right up here, but it's really important to have some way to vary up your footwear so that you're not just putting the exact same stresses on your feet and lower legs with every single step. If you're liking these tips, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button down below. It really helps me because it helps YouTube to know whether people are actually enjoying the content. So I really appreciate you hitting that like button down below. And finally, another way to introduce variability into your running is to change the different kinds of runs that you're doing. Okay, now this is really interesting because I spent a good 8 weeks, 10 weeks just doing MAF running. Okay, now MAF running is, of course, if you're not familiar or if you're new to the channel, it's running at a certain low heart rate to make sure that you are using mostly your aerobic capacity and not jumping into anaerobic zones or things like that. You're just training the aerobic system. Now the problem with that is that if you're just doing this really slow, repetitive kind of jogging, you're putting the exact same stresses on your body with every single run. Now, the stresses are low because you're running at a low heart rate, so it's not nearly as bad as if you were every day going out and running a tempo-paced run, but it is still putting the exact same stresses on your body every single time. So that's why it's important to introduce the different kinds of training or different footwear, or every now and then throw in a different kind of run that's going to stress your body, stress your legs, stress your feet in a different way. So of course there's so many different ways that you can actually train. You can do long runs, you can do easy runs, you can do speed work, tempo, threshold training, all of this kind of stuff. You can throw in hills going up or down, and then you can also do things like trails that are going to really vary things up and give you all sorts of different terrain with your running. So really important to kind of change up your actual running training, just to change the stimulus on your legs, on your lower body, even on your cardiovascular system as well. So changing up that running training is really important. Now, if you are trying to build up and do MAF style training, then I made another video here a few months ago about how to not lose power with MAF training, and that's something that I'm probably going to get into a little bit more in another video here pretty soon. I want to add variability to your MAF training, okay? Because it can get repetitive, it can get boring, it can put you at risk of injury even though you are going at a slower pace. But we'll get into that in another video, hopefully very soon. So that's all I've got for you guys today. 3 ways to introduce variability into your running training so that you do not end up with some sort of repetitive stress injury. So thanks for joining me. Hope this video was helpful. Head on out there, seek your elite. God bless, and I'll see you next time.